Well, here's the thing about OCD, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, panic attacks, looping intrusive thoughts. Those all got worse for me when I started doing DNRS program. And it's quite normal that that happens, because what happens is okay, your brain is a security system, right? And it sends you alarms for you to acknowledge. So it uses symptoms as a form of alarms, right? It sends symptoms. They're just alarms. So when I started my journey with brain retraining, the more I healed physically, the more mentally I would get, I guess, alarms. So the more you heal your physical alarms, the louder your mental alarms start to ring. If you look at your limbic system as your security system, it uses these alarms to get your attention, right? Because it's in an alarm state. And physical symptoms are just alarms. Mental symptoms are just alarms. So alarms are meant to be acknowledged and to get your attention. That's why these symptoms manifest, because we've been in a higher state of fight or flight. Our baseline's been up for too long, so things get overwhelmed. Your bucket gets full, starts to overflow, boil over, and then symptoms manifest because the body is the brain and the body have too many big loads that it's having a hard time to process. And it also sends alarms to get your attention by sending you physical and mental symptoms. So when you start to heal your physical symptoms through programs like DNRS I should say, and they start to go away, the brain has to get your attention still, because it's still perceiving danger, because you're still in the state of fight or flight, right? You're not out of that survival state yet. You're still, your baseline's still at a 10, but you're starting to heal, but your alarms are still ringing. So the brain, it has a vast number of physical alarms that it can ring, right? But when they start healing, it doesn't have access to those anymore, because you're recalibrating your physical side. You start to recalibrate, create new neural pathways. You're doing the work. Physical symptoms start to go away. So how is it going to get your attention? How is it going to send alarms your way when its a supply of alarms is going less and less? So what does it do? How's it going to get your attention? Well, it starts to send more mental alarms instead. So that's what happens. That's what happened to me. And it's normal. I started healing physically. Most of my symptoms started to go away. I should make a list of exactly how many I had and in detail what they were. And then I started getting post-traumatic stress triggers like crazy. Everything I was triggering with everything. OCD, looping intrusive thoughts. I would loop on a thought for 2 weeks at a time. I had a safe room. I wouldn't leave the house because everywhere I went was a war zone. I couldn't be in my car. I couldn't be anywhere because it was a trigger. I was running away from my thoughts. I was trying to distract. See, that's where DNRS would say, distract. And be in the present moment. And they would say, do opposites, which also made it worse. And people were giving bad advice on the forums too. They're like, just distract and keep on redirect. Just find something to do, redirect and distract. That's what you have to do. You have to create these new neural pathways. So you have to, it was too much wrapped around creating pathways when in general, technically you don't have to worry about that. The brain already knows how to create neural pathways. We don't have to micromanage what our brain is doing and not doing. Whenever we do anything, it's already creating neural pathways automatically. Here's my explaining video. Me. So it got me stuck because the more I was trying to distract, the louder the alarms would ring. And triggers would multiply. They would get bigger and louder. Everything was a trigger. So when you ignore something, the alarms get louder, and then the brain takes a snapshot, produces a trigger, and then puts it in files. And then eventually when you ignore your triggers, everything relates to that trigger. That has nothing to do with that trigger. It's really funny. Like you'll have a trigger, right, that always comes up. And you'll be like, okay, that's related to this one thing, blah, 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 I'm afraid of. Blue, blue, blue. Alarms are ringing like crazy. But now, when I look at my steering wheel, or if I'm just anything, reminds me of that trigger now. I got a trigger for a trigger. It's craziness. Right, Dolly? Its main job is to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you suffer, right? So it sends mechanisms like OCD. What does OCD do? OCD is making you scan for danger, right? It sends doubt also. Doubt, what is that going to do for you? Well, it's making you investigate, right? Triggers. Triggers is a thing where it gives you like an alarm, a booby trap when you go there that goes alarm, alarm, alarm. Remember, 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 right? These are all brilliant mechanisms that the brain sends to help you be aware of danger that could be there. It perceives that it's there. So it's got to find ways to always keep you trying to figure it out, try to investigate, try to doubt. When you doubt, you investigate. OCD, what are you doing? Well, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to get reassurance. You need to be certain, 1000% that you're safe. So it's, making you investigate. That's what OCD does. It makes you be compulsively obsessed with finding the way out, with being safe. And it's better off that you're obsessed about being safe than, not having an alarm and then all of a sudden you die, because there was an actual bear behind the woods, and because the alarms weren't on, you missed it, and there it failed its job. So I'd rather make sure you're alive by sending OCD. And when you're in a state of fight or flight, the alarm's ringing louder, and there's constant alarms. So OCD goes up, right? When you heal your physical symptoms, OCD goes up. So what was my missing piece? My missing piece was learning how to treat OCD properly. This is where the DARE response came in. So I took two therapies in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just DNRS, sorry. And it was working. But then my mental side of things went crazy. They went through the roof. They went a lot worse. And that's normal. But I didn't know how to fix the mental side of things. And I used to be like, I wish I had my physical symptoms back, because they're a lot worse than the mental side is a lot worse than physical symptoms I'm dealing with. I remember I used to say that all the time. I'm like, oh man, physical symptoms it's a walk through the park compared to this, because I was constantly looping on thoughts minute by minute, second by second, of course, every day, all day, for months at a time. And I knew this was a part of the process, but I started to get stuck. Nothing was improving. Things were getting worse. So, lucky me, talking with some other retrainers that told me, hey, some of the things that DNRS is teaching is actually keeping you stuck. And you have to actually learn not to self-soothe and to actually go towards all your triggers and allow them to go crazy, allow them to run wild. Allow all the alarms to go crazy. Feel your feelings, allow the anxiety to be there. Just watch all my other videos about this subject, about OCD and intrusive thoughts, and I talk about exactly what to do. And that was my missing link. I was always told to avoid and to redirect and to do a opposite, which doesn't work. It actually makes things worse. It just keeps you stuck. Opposites are forcing you to investigate and make a deal with the alarm system, but it doesn't work. You'll never, it's bait. The content of the thought is irrelevant. Always remember that. It is irrelevant no matter how real it feels. It's very irrelevant. I know it might seem like, how is that possible? It's true. It means nothing, but it feels like it does. So always know that. The topic of the thought is irrelevant, and you have to respond to it differently than we've been. The first thing you want to do is resist your thoughts and to hide from them and run away from them, because we don't like them, right? We don't like this feeling. We don't like the feeling of impending doom, that we're going to die, or you might have this symptom, or you'll never get better. That was a common thought. Or, yeah, you're special. There's something else wrong with you, and oh my goodness, now it's really happening now. Or that symptom that you were fearing, okay, now this time it's real. So, what did I do? I took the Dare Response app, I downloaded it, I paid my $60 a year subscription, and I bought the book, and I went deep into it. It's an approach that not many people know about, not many therapists talk about. So watch all my videos, because I talk about it, how to respond correctly to your OCD and looping thoughts. And you have to keep doing that. Repetition. And it took me about a couple of months for me to really feel a lot of relief. Because, at first, all these thoughts were like not having anywhere to go, and these alarms are just ringing. And then finally I had the right response. And then it was like a big lineup of thoughts going, me next, can I get processed next, me next. So it was like, whoa, all of a sudden it went right through the roof. And, taking DNRS and then taking the Dare Response, I became my own guide. I became my own guinea pig. And I made mistakes. I did the things I wasn't supposed to do, and I did the opposite. Until, with some clarity with Dare and some other coaches and friends that did recover, I went ahead and did what they mentioned, and I saw results. And then, of course, when you get to go through your own journey, you figure things out, right? What works better, actually, and you actually find a better version of than DNRS and Dare. See, my version is Dare mixed with DNRS mixed with my experiences put together. Some people might say, well, the Dare Response is for anxiety, Helmet. How is that have anything to do with neural pathways and neuroplasticity and this physical symptom that I have and this gastritis that I have and this food sensitivity that I have? How does anxiety, a program about anxiety, have anything to do with the 75 symptoms that I have, Helmet, or the POTS that I have, or the Lyme disease that I have? It's not for me. When actually it had everything to do with any of your problems, and it's actually better than the dairy response. Than DNRS, because it gets right to how to respond to your OCD. Because if you figure out your OCD, everything else falls in line. It's interesting. And, it's not promoted as something that, when you go on the internet, it won't say, you will recover from chronic illnesses. No, it's promoted as anxiety recovery. So, of course, people are going to be like, this isn't going to cut it. This isn't it. This isn't the answer. But I started to realize that it was, along with, a combination of everything together. And me figuring it out, I was putting things together, and I was like, oh man, I just discovered the reason why I was stuck, and I found the right path, and I can help many people. I found the key, right? And wow, what a relief. So yeah, download the Dare app, watch my videos, because you'll get the proper ways of responding correctly, and just keep going. So that in short form would be, allow your symptoms to run wild, feel them, and engage in life. Bring up your thoughts and symptoms with you. I guess the acronym was RAE, R-A-E. So as soon as you have an OCD thought, run towards it right away. And then allow it to run wild and feel it, right? So you're allowing it in all its forms. There's no conditions, right? We're not resisting it. So you run towards it, you allow it, and then you engage and you repeat that. That's your formula. Dare's acronyms are a little different. Same shit. So just repeat that. And yeah, OCD is a big factor in recovery. And it does go up when you go through the recovery process. And that's normal. And yeah, just keep doing it. And then eventually, because it goes in stages, right? Recovery goes in stages. Eventually, you'll get confident. You'll get into the first stage, you get leverage. And then you'll start to do exposure therapy with the DARE response. So exposure therapy means running towards your fears and triggers, going towards them. I know in the beginning it'd be like, how? I could never, in my wildest dreams, want to go towards something. Won't that make my brain think that is going to be the new program when you go towards it? Like, what kind of a message are you sending your brain by doing that? Well, you're sending your brain a message of, I'm not white knuckling through this. We're safe. That old alarm, the program you've sent, the perceived danger, is wrong. And I'm showing you that it's wrong by sitting in the fear. So when I sit in the fear and I allow it, I embrace it, I ask for more, the brain changes the association, turns off the alarm. This is the OCD alarms, right? And then your baseline comes down because you're not resisting inside, you're not fighting with yourself. So the baseline calms down and comes down. Your bucket gets more empty. It starts to release. Alarms start to ring less. And then you repeat that over and over and over again. It calms over time. It goes from a 10 to a 5 to a 3 to a 1. Eventually a 0. You become indifferent to a symptom or a thought. Imagine that. Being comfortable with a symptom that used to scare you. Being comfortable with a thought that used to scare you. Being comfortable with a trigger that used to scare you, where you don't care anymore, you become numb to it. That's the answer. Becoming numb and indifferent to any thought, any alarm, any symptom. When you can do that, that's when you start to recover. And that's it.